What a welcome. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I feel like I'm home every time I come here, so I'm back home.
You are home. We're happy to have you back. We're happy that you're here.
Thank you.
And we're happy that you're here to talk about, you got a lot going on.
A lot going on. It's an exciting time right now.
It is. There's a lot happening. And what you're doing with State Farm, I want to start off with that because it is very significant and impactful. So tell us about that. What's the campaign? And
well, the campaign today is Good Neighbor Day. Celebrated annually, September 28th. For those of you who don't know, Good Neighbor Day was started almost 40 years ago by President Jimmy Carter to bring attention to strengthening and rebuilding our community as a collective. And that's what it is. And, you know, a lot of people always talk about, well, how can I donate? I don't know how to donate. I don't know how to volunteer. I don't know if I have the time to volunteer. And what the good people at State Farm have done is they've come up with neighborhoodofgood.com. And what you can do is you go to that website, neighborhoodofgood.com, and you click in your zip code, and it's going to say things that I like. And whatever you're passionate about, from that list, you can click on all, or you can click on as many or as few as you want. And it's about education, it's about animals, it's about health and wellness, it's about school, it's about children, it's about men, it's about women, it's about everything. And what happens when you do that and you put your zip code in, all of those organizations and programs pop up that are in your neighborhood. And you can go there and volunteer your time. It's just that simple. You can give 10 minutes, you can give 10 hours, you can give 10 weeks. So that's what we're here promoting and talking about. You know, Good Neighbor Day isn't just, you know, September 28th, you know, but Neighborhood of Good is something that, you know, we should be doing every day. Yeah.
And so this is a sustained movement that you plan to continue to participate in.
Oh, yes.
And this is, this is something we should talk about all the time, but especially now it feels like something that we absolutely need to emphasize considering our current social, political, cultural times, giving back, recognizing each other's needs, and doing what we can to provide.
Yeah, if we don't want to volunteer and help our neighbor and our own community, who can we expect to do that if we don't do it ourselves, especially what's going on politically, but more importantly, what's going on with these disasters around the world. State Farm donates $1 million every year to the Red Cross. Whether there's something disastrous happening or not, this is just a pledge that they've done. They're also giving away $40,000, $25,000 grants to organizations across the United States to help in their respective areas. And they're also giving an additional $500,000 to their $1 million pledge because of Hurricane Harvey and Irma. And who was the other one?
So many of them.
Jose
and Maria.
James, Maria,
Guadalupe.
Right.
It's the age of
Bushanda Tay, Tamika, Ray, all of them.
Coming for everybody.
Yeah.
Why did you get involved, and why is it important to you to give back?
It's something that I've been doing since I was a kid, you know. It started in the church, you know. Okay, the church mama needs you to come by our house and mow her lawn. You know, she can't go to the grocery store on her own. Take her to the grocery store, help her with her groceries. So it started with my brothers, my sisters, myself, and our mother in church. And then it just spilled over into my life, into my adulthood. And it's something that I've preached and instilled to my children. And at a very early age, my children were with me while I was filming the show in Katrina, post-Katrina, in New Orleans. And they got involved with Habitat for Humanity, so they went back home and started, you know, building and painting homes. And my daughter is a sociology major at the University of San Diego right now, entering her senior year, and wants to write policy and change policy in the world. And in her free time, she travels the world and studies abroad in impoverished neighborhoods and communities, and volunteers her time with that. My son does the same thing, and ironically, this year, a trip to China had come up. This week, a trip to China had come up, and my wife told me, well, you know, he wants to go to Florida. And I say, why? He's like, you know, he wants to do some volunteer work there at a program. I was like, but it's China. You know, he's 17. You know, he should go travel abroad and live abroad for you know, however long they're going to be there, and you know, experience a culture while living in that culture. You know, I'll send him to the program in Florida, but this is an opportunity. And I was texting my son back and forth because I was at work, and he was like, "Dad, why do I need to go now?" I was like, "Because it's an opportunity now." And he's like, "Well, that's not what I want to do. You know, my passion is to volunteer with these kids." And when he hit me with my passion, I had to take a step back, because I was projecting onto him what I would have done at 17 and what I want my 17-year-old son to do because of that experience. And he's different than what I was, you know. And so I had to think, okay, all right. He said this is what his passion is. It's not anything that I interjected or whatnot. So I was like, okay, go to Florida.
That's amazing, and that's his passion. And kudos to both of your children.
Thank you.
And these are real life parenting lessons that you're picking up, you know, each day, I'm sure. And I'm sure a lot of that translates into the show too, on Blackish, being and playing on Dre and being a father figure in that family. So before we get into Blackish, just play a little clip and get folks caught up.
Play on, player.
Okay. It's gonna be all right.
We raised their children,
then raised their buildings,
and they made billions.
I'm catching feelings. Really? What else did we build?
Railroads, Wall Street,
the White House and University,
UVA.
We built that.
Chapel Hill.
We built that.
Pyramids.
No, sorry, our Hebrew brothers get credit for that.
Mazel. Let's turn up and get it poppin'.
Settle down, we still ain't got nothing. We built this. We built this.
I'm done, y'all. I'ma keep it 100.
Tomorrow when I hit the field, I'ma keep running.
We did everything that the overseer wanted.
And if we got paid, then we'd be stunting.
Sugar cane, cotton ham.
My blood and sweat paid for this land. My life would have been different if I didn't have cinnamon pigment. We built this.
Wow.
Real
Tears
tears.
in my eyes to watch that every time. Yeah.
Talk to me. How are you feeling? Why does that make you so emotional? It made me emotional, but I want to hear from you.
You know, that's the first time I've watched that in its entirety. And this is that's our premiere episode. And, you know, given what's going on in today's society right now, taking a knee, given what's going on with inner city youth and police brutality and all of that, I think this is right on time. You know, my character Andre, they were celebrating Columbus Day at work, and he was like, Columbus was a horrible man. He never set foot in North America. He was a thief. He was a murderer. Why are we celebrating him? And so he was like, we need to celebrate something in our community. The Latinos have Cinco de Mayo. The Irish have St. Patty's Day. You know, America has so-called Independence Day. He was like, but we weren't free then. You know, Juneteenth is when we all became free, and I forget what year in 1865. He said that is the true Independence Day. So he comes up with a campaign to get rid of, eradicate Columbus Day and replace it with Juneteenth. And so I employ Aloe Black to come in and write our music for this song, or for the campaign. And in a series of flashbacks, the Johnson family travels back in time to slavery, and on a plantation the day before emancipation and the day after emancipation. What you saw right now was the day before emancipation, and they didn't know they were going to be freed the next day. So they were just talking about what the history of America and how it was built on the backs of black and brown people. And you know, the lyrics in the song, we raise their children and we raise their buildings. You know, but yet they don't see us as equal or anything like that.
Reminds me of that time Michelle Obama made that quote, and she said, slaves built the White House.
Yeah, exactly.
And it caused such an uproar, but it's fact.
It's fact.
It's
you know, the truth hurts.
Right.
The truth hurts, especially when you hit the person that's been lying to you their entire lives and your entire life. But when you hit them with the truth and facts, you know, no one really wants to deal with that.
Yeah. Talk to me
so.
about that, because the show it gets really real about race,
Mm-hmm.
right? But in a really comedic way.
Mm-hmm.
It's really clever writing, even better acting, and still collectively it tells a story, it tells a narrative about what a black family's experience can be like in America. Everything from the microaggressions Dre faces at work to Yara being a college student, going off to college and being a young kid, to the issues that the young students face, to what Bo faces at work as well, and just what you face being black in America, being a black man. Talk to me about why is Blackish so important to you, and what does it feel like being a part of something that's so important in today's time?
Well, it's important to me because it's my life. You know, Kenya Barris, my partner in this venture, you know, we sat down 5 years ago and wanted to have a show that dealt with all of those things. We looked at the landscape of television and watched and talked about what was missing from television for us as viewers. We're kids who grew up in the 80s and watching All in the Family, watching Good Times, watching The Jeffersons, watching The Cosby Show. You know, those were the shows that influenced us, and those were shows that had something to say. The shows had a very distinct point of view, and so did the characters. And, you know, that's what Norman Lear was about. And, you know, we sat down and we talked about the things that we had in common, and we had more things in common than we didn't. Both of us are first-generation successful. He's from Inglewood, California. I'm from Compton, California. We both are the only African-Americans that live in our respective neighborhoods, even though he lives 7 minutes from me. And all of that. And 2 weeks after we had this meeting and just talked about our families, you know, my son, not only was he the only chocolate drop in his class, he was the only chocolate drop in his grade for almost 4 years. You know, there were other chocolate drops around the school, but he was the only chocolate drop from early kindergarten to 4th grade, you know, in that grade. So that's what our show is about, and so that's why I'm proud of it and I'm happy of it, because it's my life, it's Kenya's life, it's all of your lives out there. But we pull from, you know, our experiences, and everything that the majority of everything that you see on the screen, especially the first 2 seasons, was pulled directly from our lives. But not to take credit for all that, because we have a fantastic writing room who, you know, put these words on a page and allow me to breathe life into these words. So without them, we wouldn't be doing any of this. And it's a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a pretty great team, I must say. I mean,
It
the
is.
chemistry that you guys have on screen, I don't know what it's like on set and behind the scenes, but I'd love for you to talk about that a little bit later. But this chemistry that you have on screen, it seems so natural. And it speaks so much to the daily experiences that I speak for myself as a black woman face, right? And being part of a black family and being raised the way I was. You know, I'm an immigrant, but being raised as a black woman here, there's so many parts to the black experience that it does so well in unpacking. One of my favorite parts and aspects of the show are the history lessons that you provide that are embedded in each episode that sort of give sort of the backstory to why that episode sort of centers around a certain theme. Why, considering, you know, and especially considering the beginning when season 1 first came out, the praise and sort of the reception from the audiences, I think, evolved over time, right? When the show first debuted, it didn't get much fanfare. People were confused by the title. title, confused by the show's concept, and it's since evolved into, I mean, people, after watching the first episode, got that.
Well, in our community.
Yes.
In our community.
In our community, right.
Which was a shame, because 15 million people watched our show when we premiered, and we steadily keep those numbers up and between 10 and 12 million every week. But it's a shame that in our community, who we're making this show for and about, looked at the title and was like, what do you mean Blackish? I'm not gonna watch that. And it's like, really? But why not? Why wouldn't you give this family, this lovely family, a chance? Lawrence Fishburne, Jennifer Lewis, Tracy Ellis Ross, myself. You look at our track record and what we represent and how we represent ourselves in our community. Why wouldn't you do that? Because of the title? It just says Blackish. And I always wonder why anytime the word black isn't something associated with us, it's negative.
Absolutely.
And I would always talk to people about that. I was like, do you watch Love and Hip Hop? Like, yeah. Do you watch Real Housewives of Atlanta or whatnot? They're like, yeah. And you make those shows #1 shows, but that's not a true depiction of who you are as a black woman. I don't think you sit around and fight and call each other bitches and all that. And Love and Hip Hop isn't, what your life is, but you watch that. But you refuse, and you tell me to my face, I'm not gonna watch your show because it's called Blackish. I was like, wow, that's very ignorant of you.
People got over that, apparently, after it started airing. And
they
showed what it actually was about.
They did.
And here you have Tracy winning Emmys, right? The show getting...
Well, she won a Golden Globe.
Golden Globe, sorry. Okay, thank you, Ken.
We still
Golden
haven't
Globe,
won
right.
an
But
Emmy
that's still a significant win. But she gonna get that, though.
I've been nominated 3 years in a row for an Emmy.
And you will, too. It's gonna happen. You speak it into existence.
That's what they said all 3 years. Oh, you're gonna next year, Ann. I was like, yeah, I will. Next year came and went. The year after that came and went, and here I am on AOL. Emmy list. This is my
happy
Emmy.
You're here.
This is my Emmy right here.
Better than the Emmys. But it's gotten a ton of accolades, a ton of praise.
Yes.
How does that feel now, being part of a show that's being watched by so many millions of people and speaking to such an important topic like race? And doing it in a funny way. Like, how does that feel?
Words can't begin to explain about that, because, as a start, this is our family, so when, and I think our show resonates with an audience the way that it does is because of the authenticity and truthfulness in which we tell these stories through these characters. We're not trying to pander to any one particular audience. We're just trying to be true to ourselves. Andre Johnson has a very distinct point of view. So does Rainbow Johnson. So does his family. And so does the show. And as long as we're authentic to that and truthful to that, people are going to appreciate that. Because the biggest compliment that I ever got when I walk around and show the pilot to Fortune 500 companies before the show aired 4 years ago, I showed the pilot, and everybody looked up afterwards, applauded, and said, when I see your family up there, I see my family. And that's when I knew that we were onto something special, because it was coming from whites, from blacks, from Mexicans, from Chinese to Indian to Arabic, Islamic people. And I was like, okay, that's when I know. That's what I knew and realized that we were onto something. And we're just going to continue to do that.
Absolutely. What can we expect in season 4? I mean, the first 3 seasons touched on so much. You've covered, tons of issues, from colorism to police brutality.
My family went back as slaves. Come on.
That's
how
right.
we're opening the season. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, but we're still a comedy. Yeah. We still feel not necessarily a responsibility, but we talk about social injustice. So we have social commentary. But we're dealing with real issues. Like, we just have a new baby, Devontae. And so our second episode after the slave episode, we talk about, Rainbow's character dealing with postpartum depression. We're dealing with real issues that, we all have gone through. And, how Andre is a supportive husband because she doesn't believe she has it. And Andre is the one that does the research and brings it to her and convinces her to go see a doctor. And so they can get through this together. And What else have we done? It's
been a ton. You've had, I mean, and it's been progressive in that, you have co-ed baby showers, right?
Yeah.
And also in the fact that Dre and what you experience at work is really interesting. The microaggressions and being a black man in the workplace, and especially in that field like advertising, when a lot of it revolves around messaging and imagery and how we market to and about black people. And you have those conversations at work, and I think that really resonates in multi-levels and multi-layers. What's that experience like in talking about microaggressions and just what other
that's the experience that we deal with. Dalen, raise your hand right there. See that gentleman right there? That is the real life Andre Johnson. I mean, we didn't pattern this after him, but he is this character. He is the black guy in the white marketing office. He is the one that they go to for all things black, and he's part of the reason that I'm here today. And we didn't know that when we met 3 or 4 years ago. We started talking. He was like, "Yo, dog, you playing me on TV, right?" And so it's interesting. Daly, come up here, man. Tell the people, how is it? Because I portray a character. You actually live this life. You live the life of this character. Ask him that question.
Yeah, if you can talk about. Yeah, I mean, you're here. We would love to. This is.
Yeah, Daly,
come on,
take
you're
the seat,
real
man.
life Dre.
Take the seat. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a knee next to you. I'm gonna take a knee. So you ask him the question. Take the mic.
Yeah.
The mic is yours. Yes, sir.
You are apparently the real life Dre. Yes.
I'm the real life Dalen, but no.
Talk to me about that.
In understanding, especially from a marketing field, especially with certain situations that happen from other brands and things of that nature, it's a heightened awareness on it right now, which is good because people are asking the questions. They're trying to find out, hey, are we making sure we're sensitive in this, making sure we're putting the right messaging out there, making sure that we don't offend anybody, but also making sure we're authentic. I say that all the time in my agency. We have to come across as authentic as possible because if you do that, then the message is going to carry over. But if you're just trying to put some black faces in a campaign and say, hey, we're multicultural on this, and it's not really that. You need people that are carving the messages out inside of the room, inside of the boardrooms to be able to get the right message out there. So it's challenging, but I love it. I mean, it's been a situation of where I've been asked to do other jobs, and I still do the multicultural job just because I want to make sure that what the message we carve out is the right message, and I know I can kind of help with that.
And do you see a lot of yourself reflected in Dre's character?
Oh, we talk about it all the time, especially, those conversations where you're in rooms with people who have great intentions, they just don't know. And they're just coming from their own perspective. And it's like, hey, you have to have other people with different perspectives, put them all together, and that's the true way to be able to get the messaging out so you're not offending people and you're actually marketing well.
It's a chicken campaign. Let's get a black family.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we don't necessarily have to do that.
We've had some conversations on the side of, I'm like, hey, this was bad. Like, this is, it's come to me like, hey, this is going to be good. And I'm like,
had Pepsi moments?
No comment. Pepsi is one of my agency's clients. We didn't do the campaign. Right. We wish we would have because I would have been the first one to say, hey, hold on. Let's really look how this...
It's a teachable moment for people, though.
It's a teachable moment. Absolutely. Yeah, it's absolutely. So I use that in reference to people when they're saying, why is there a need for a multicultural division? Why is there a need? It's everybody, and it's like, hey, you remember that?
Happened. Right.
Right there. So I got invited to quite a few more meetings after that happened. Nice. So it all works out.
Okay, you can leave the stage
Thank
now,
you,
David.
please.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad he came up on the stage because I think that just speaks to the fact that representation is so important. And you on screen talking about this openly and speaking and representing on behalf of experiences a lot of people face, and not just black people in advertising or black men in advertising, but people who may feel as the one in the only one in a collective or a large group or a workplace or a situation where they may feel othered. And so I think Blackish just brings a sense of comfort to people who may feel as if they are alone.
Thank you.
So thank you for what you do.
Oh, thank you.
And we're excited for season 4.
Oh, so am I.
Awesome. So I want to
it's a new night and a new time.
Yes,
October 3rd, Tuesday at 9 p.m.
On 8.
October 3rd, Tuesday, 9 p.m.
This
Yeah, it's your
coming
birthday.
Tuesday.
We did it for your birthday, homie. that is my gift to you on ABC.
I love it. Now, speaking of the audience, I want to switch it over to y'all. If you have any questions, we'll do a quick Q&A. Awesome, right
Yes,
here.
sir.
Hi, Tony Anderson. Me and my grandma loves your show. So, who's your favorite comedian since childhood?
Who is my favorite comedian? I go back to the classics, man. Richard Pryor, Red Fox, and you know, Eddie Murphy, who from Eddie Murphy to D.L. Hughley to George Lopez to Kevin Hart to Ced the Entertainer to Bernie Mac. All of these guys are now my friends. So I grew up watching these people and listening to them, and now to be able to work with them and call them my friends is a beautiful thing, and that's the beauty of what I do. You know, I was just a kid in Compton who had a dream that this is what I wanted to do with my life, and I look at where my life has taken me. It's taken me from the projects of Watts to the White House, to befriend, you know, President Obama and the First Lady Michelle Obama, who were fans of this television show right here, who will go out and say that's one of their favorite shows that they watch, and they don't miss an episode of it. Yeah. All right, brother, you got it.
Powerful stuff. Anybody else? Any other questions? Thank you.
Hi, thank you for coming in. I just wanted to know, how do you feel that Blackish now and in the future will affect the representation of minorities in the media?
You know, if you look at television and what was on television at the time before Blackish came on, we weren't represented on television as a family like this. It hasn't been a black family sitcom since My Wife and Kids, I believe, or maybe Bernie Mac around the same time, and that was so long ago. And you look at the success of Blackish and how it's opened the door for the next generation of minority storytellers. You know, Christella, Fresh Off the Boat, you know, Uncle Buck, you know, and things like that. As long as we continue to do what we do, and as long as those other shows continue to do what they do, with every success comes the next generation, and everything is cyclical. And hopefully this cycle lasts a little bit longer than the cycle before it, because that's what it's all about. It's about breaking down doors and barriers and bringing up the next generation of storytellers, and they in turn do the same. I don't know how we will affect that in the future. All I know is that if we continue to do what we've been doing for the past 4 years, we should be around for at least another 4 years, continuing to tell these stories and grow and to educate and to continue to shed a light or shine a light on certain things that may not get the attention that it deserves. And, you know, balance that line comedically as well. I mean, nobody wants to be hit over the head with the message. You know, we try to deliver our message and whatever it is that we want with a teaspoon of sugar, because that's better than a teaspoon of salt. You know, we get everyone laughing about something. They're like, oh, what are we laughing about? And then we talk about what it is that we're laughing about, and that disarms us all. You know, and it eases us all into that conversation.
Here's to 4 more years of that.
Yeah, I hope not. Yes, sir.
Any others?
Hey, Anthony, how did you start the partnership with State Farm?
You know, State Farm had come to me and asked me to be a part of that. You know, there was some synergy there because of the work that I've done in my community and the volunteer work that I've been doing for years now. And so it was just a perfect combination. You know, I don't know how they heard about me. But they did, and I'm glad they did. And here I am representing them and a part of that family. There's going to be an integration of State Farm. Well, there's always been integration of State Farm in our show, but there's an integration that we're doing next week, highlighting Good Neighbor Day and Neighborhood of Good on our show and volunteerism. You know, so. Hopefully it's a relationship that will last for quite some time now.
Seems like a natural one.
Yeah.
All right. very quickly, yeah.
Shiny shoes.
Hi, Anthony. Good to see you again. Good to talk to you again. I just wanted to ask you because, you know, the inauguration show was my favorite. And I wanted to ask, would you guys ever consider on Blackish having an episode that teaches us to use our visual voice? And what I mean by that is voting. A lot of people don't know how to use their voice when it comes down to voting.
Well, that's what you know. I thought we touched upon that in that episode called Lemons. Maybe we talked about the aftermath and talked about, you know, how people didn't go out. But I'm pretty sure that, you know, we'll touch upon that, you know, somehow. I mean, you know, this administration has, you know, 3+ years left. It's going to give us some interesting things to talk about and deal with, and it is what it is. And, you know, this is a prime example of people who did not go out and vote. You know, it's like, well, I'm not going to vote for him. I'm not going to vote for her. Well, okay, then you have to accept who was voted into the White House, because every vote does count. And had, you know, a small percentage of people who said, I'm not voting for either one of them, gone out and cast a vote, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We wouldn't be where we are right now and dealing with the things that we're dealing with the current administration. So every vote does count, and people should go out and vote and not be discouraged by that. Oh, the line is too long. Well, okay, people died for you to have this right to do this. You know, if all you have to do is stand in a line, you know, to cast a vote on your future, for your family's future, come on, it's simple. I stood in line for 6 hours. You know, if I can stand in line, you can stand in line. We can stand in line together. I bought coffee, Starbucks, for everybody that was in line with me in my whole group. I didn't know.
Wish I was in that line.
They let me cut the line. I was like, okay. All right, save my place. I'm going to Starbucks. What y'all want? I got you. Yeah.
Anthony, thank you so much for being here. Y'all tune in Tuesday. And
October 3rd, Tuesdays, 9 o'clock,
There we
8
go.
Central. Blackish, new time, new day, new night.
Same family.
All right.
Bye, y'all.